The Department of Public Health and Human Services is pleased to bring you Aging Horizons. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, fraud, legal issues, veterans benefits, and caregiving. Aging Horizons is a program dedicated to inform and prepare Montanans on these timely issues, making a difference to you and your loved ones. Here now is today's program host.
Today on Aging Horizons, we're going to be speaking with Gretchen Hall, who's the legal service developer for the state of Montana, and Susan Gobbs, who's a contract attorney, all about all of the amazing services that their program offers, a little bit about estate planning, and how to get in touch with them when you have questions, all about the things that could be happening to either you or an older adult in your life. So make sure you stay tuned to Aging Horizons.
Can you say ombudsman?
Ombudsman. Benson?
Uma Doodlesman? Fortunately, you don't have to say it right to get the help of a long-term care ombudsman. If you or a loved one reside in assisted living or long-term care, an ombudsman can help resolve any issue. And these services are completely free and confidential. Now, why don't you try that again?
Ombudsman.
Did you just text me?
I didn't want to disturb you if you were sleeping.
Sleeping? I'm sitting right next to you, silly.
There you are. Hey, I found a couple of Medicare helping programs online that I think we ought to look into.
It says if we qualify, we can get help paying for our prescription drugs. Oh, and there's a program that can help pay our Part B premium.
To learn more about extra help and Medicare savings programs, call your local SHIP counselor today.
Maybe I better text him.
You've probably seen some big-name celebrities on your TV lately talking about all the Medicare benefits you're missing out on. But the insurance companies who are paying for these ads may be pushing benefits not available in Montana. Fortunately, help is available from a friendly state health insurance assistance program counselor who can help you sort it all out. It's free, and we screen everyone for eligibility regardless of your zip code. It's Montanans helping Montanans. Call today.
A message from FireSafe Montana. It has been indicated that Montana is headed towards a significant wildland fire season. Now is the time for you and your community to begin your fuel mitigation efforts. Neighborhood meetings, fuel mitigation around your property, planning escape routes, practicing the route. Right now is the time for action. Your local emergency management agency can be contacted for more information. This message brought to you by FireSafe Montana and aired by the Montana Broadcasters Association.
Welcome to Aging Horizons, brought to you by the Department of Public Health and Human Services. I'm your host, Katie Lovell. And today we have a really great show for you today, all about the Legal Service Developer Program. We have Gretchen Hall, who's the new Legal Services Developer, and we have Susan Gobbs, who's a contract attorney for the program. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's always a pleasure.
And Gretchen, tell me a little bit about you. How did you get to the Legal Service Developer?
I joined the program at the end of February. I have a degree in social work, and I've had a career working with adults with various disabilities and their interaction with legal services in the legal system. And I found this position and thought it was a great match, an opportunity for me to assist older adults here in Montana and help them connect with the resources that they are looking for.
Wonderful. And we all know that I love the program. As the former you, I love the program, and then I'm so glad to have you on board. You've done such an amazing job so far, and I'm really excited that you're the person in the position.
Thank you, Katie. That means so much coming from you.
So I know what the program does, but I think maybe a lot of our viewers don't know what the Legal Services Developer Program is, and it's not really it's not really a title that lends itself to explain what the program itself does. So why don't you guys tell me a little bit about what the program does?
All right. I'll start and let Susan jump in, but we provide legal advice and information to adults age 60 and older and adults with disabilities. We help them connect with civil legal services and resources. We also provide training and education to aging professionals and other service providers throughout the state. And we host legal clinics during the summer, late spring, summer into early fall, helping seniors with estate planning documents.
And then, Susan, you are contracted to work with the
Right.
program. So what is your role with the program?
As we said, I'm a contract attorney. I've been in this position for 8 years. So I am the only attorney we have for the whole state. We have a paralegal, Tammy Lund-Smith. She's an integral part of our team. And between the two of us, we field a lot of calls. Gretchen and whoever our AmeriCorps is, our new AmeriCorps is Sebastian. He'll be on staff at the time this airs. We'll take an intake from a senior. The intake may come through APS. The intake may come from the Area Agency on Aging. Sometimes we'll talk to the children of seniors that are starting to perhaps have dementia or have other issues, and the family is trying to figure out how to handle what goes on. Tammy and I'd give the legal information and the advice. We refer people to outside attorneys, whether it be Montana Legal Services or private counsel, to help with a variety of issues. It might be a dispute over an easement. It might be a landlord-tenant case. It might be like I said, a situation where a family's dealing with somebody who's starting to falter. Just a wide variety of things. We had a guy whose road and house got flooded out because of an irrigation issue. So we deal with very different kinds of issues, some issues that make sense in Montana, right? The irrigation stuff, somebody's cows on your property, whatever. We do a lot of that stuff. So we get to talk to a lot of people. Our 60 to 95 is kind of what we deal with. We deal with a lot of very lively 85-year-olds. We deal with kids in their 70s who are dealing with their parents in their 90s. Sure. And it's really important that we all understand that Montana is one of the largest or fastest aging populations, particularly in eastern Montana, and the resources aren't out there for them like they are in the major towns. And so a lot of what people need to do is just a roadmap to where they can do what they need to do. Yeah. Yesterday I dealt with a collections matter where somebody had a dispute with a hearing aid company and they got a judgment against them, and they were trying to figure out how to execute on the judgment. So while I don't go to court anymore, and I did that for the majority of my career, it's a very good way, I think, for people to get the information. And sometimes I tell them, you don't have an option. If you're being evicted, it's going to happen if the landlord has followed the rules. And so a lot of times we deliver a lot of not necessarily good news, but at least people are comforted by the fact that they've talked to a legal professional who can advise them about their situation.
Sure. So many times what people really need is just an answer to a question, just a little bit of information.
Right.
Absolutely. The program has existed in some format for well over a decade at this point. What are some of the issues that you are seeing rising to the top of things that you're getting calls about the most?
Well, we always have standard landlord-tenant calls.
Sure.
We're now starting to see, and this is brand new, and I don't know if it'll bubble to the top more, people who are caught up in the student loan forgiveness that was then the Biden administration forgave student loans, then the U.S. Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that. And so we're starting to see some pandemic stuff, people who are being asked to repay unemployment benefits that they received during the pandemic. So that's sort of the newest thing that we're seeing. But it's usually, like I said, landlord-tenant always. That's just number one probably, I think. And we're seeing a lot of dementia-related issues. You know, people who've been financially exploited. You know, I know you just had a taping with Janelle Huff, and it is important to realize that there's all this exploitation coming out, and it's generally not people from Jamaica calling asking for your social security number. Sure. It's your friends, it's your family, and people don't always recognize exploitation when it's occurring. Certainly the person who's being exploited doesn't know it's occurring. And so that's why we just see a lot of that. And we can refer to an attorney who specializes in the Attorney General's office on exploitation of seniors. And so I think that that's pretty standard. We see a fair amount of that.
Sure. All right, when we get back, I want to talk a little bit about what civil legal aid actually means. So make sure you stay tuned to Aging Horizons.
Elder abuse is a growing problem, and it's happening right here in our Montana communities. At least 1 in 10 older adults are victims of physical or emotional abuse, financial exploitation, or neglect. To get help or report elder abuse, call your local area agency on aging or Adult Protective Services at 1-844-277-9300.
Every 65 seconds, someone is affected with Alzheimer's or other dementias. Many become isolated at a time when help is most needed. If you or someone you love is affected, help is available, both for people with memory loss and their caregivers. Memory loss can feel frightening, but you are not alone. Call the free 24/7 Alzheimer's Association helpline, 800-272-3900, for guidance and support.
You mean I can get help paying my prescription drug premiums?
Let me get this straight. I could be eligible for help with my family's prescription premiums even though I own my own home?
And our assets won't be counted.
If you're a Montana resident enrolled in the Medicare prescription drug program, you could be eligible for help paying your premiums. Call or visit the Big Sky RX website today to find out, even if you think you're over income.
What do you know about that? I'm eligible.
When I found out it was diabetes, my first thought was, Barb, you need help. You have to take control of this. There is help. My doctor gave me a phone number. I called and signed up with a diabetes educator. There is help. I have to put blinders on when I walk past the bakery counter. I can feel my blood sugar go up. You succeed a little at a time. If you have diabetes, help is available. You do not have to do it alone.
Ask your doctor about diabetes education or visit montana211.org.
Welcome back to Aging Horizons. Today we're speaking with Gretchen Hall and Susan Gobbs all about the Legal Service Developer Program. Gretchen, when we say civil legal aid, I think that's a phrase that doesn't really mean anything to a lot of people. So tell me what a typical conversation that you might have with a client looks like.
Sure. So someone calls in, they might have had an issue in small claims court. Sure. And they're trying to represent themselves. Maybe they don't have access to a lawyer, and they call and they might be looking for advice about next steps in the process. Sure. They might want to know how they can move things forward. They might want information about how the civil legal system works. And the civil legal system really just means anything almost that's not criminal. So they wouldn't be coming to our program if they had a criminal matter, but if they had another matter, a consumer issue, an issue with Social Security benefits, something to do with their health insurance. It could be that they have another adult in their family who recently died and they're walking through the probate process. Sure. But they're coming to our program with some kind of question that they need answered. And we are providing information, and we fortunately have legal professionals on our team who can provide some advice and help them walk through that process.
Wonderful. Susan, when we think about civil legal aid, that can mean so many different things, like Gretchen mentioned. It's pretty much anything that isn't criminal. So what are some of the areas that folks can come to the program when they're looking for information?
Well, I'm going to tell you what they can't, and that'll narrow it just a tiny bit. Yeah. We don't do personal injury or wrongful death. We don't deal with that. We don't deal with family law. So if your grandparents want to get divorced, we're not your people. So it's basically consumer, landlord-tenant, estate planning, and probate would probably be our biggest three areas that we see.
Sure.
And then we see some real estate transactions. And then we get a whole lot of people who call and they really don't know what they need.
Sure.
And they will identify an issue, and by the time we're done with them, we've found 5 different issues that they need help with.
Sure.
Because they didn't know what they didn't know, right?
Absolutely.
And so part of the benefit of having experienced legal staff on board is that we can issue spot. And so we can say, oh, well, that issue with your landlord really has to do with perhaps it's an environmental thing, mold. It could be a flood issue. It could be your landlord has one electrical meter for 4 apartments, which is illegal, but happens. And so consequently, we sort of help people work their way through what the issues are. But it's pretty wide variety of stuff we deal with.
Sure.
Every day is a new day. It's not a boring, these aren't boring jobs, you know.
I know for a lot of our older adults, this might be the very first time that they've ever had to interact with the justice system. What are some clues that might pop up for someone that maybe they have a legal issue that they need to have addressed?
That would be paperwork, court paperwork. I can't tell you how many times we've talked to somebody and 40 minutes into the conversation, they disclose they've been served. They've got a complaint and their clock is ticking, or they have a demand letter. So part of it is, you know, pay attention to what mail you're getting. Pay attention to perhaps phone calls from creditors.
Sure.
There's a variety of things that that will trigger this, but sometimes you're going to be the one filing suit. Maybe you're the landlord who's 80-something and you've let somebody younger move onto your property and they won't go away.
Sure.
You've given them eviction notices, so then we have to talk you through what it's like to file suit yourself versus just responding to a suit that somebody else has filed.
Sure.
But it's kind of, I guess, if it doesn't feel right, we can always tell you if it's not a legal problem.
Sure.
You know, and I would encourage people to call versus them thinking they have to identify
Sure.
exactly what the issue is, because that's my job.
Yeah. Gretchen, when you talk to folks on the phone, do they need to have any information ahead of them? Sort of what kind of conversation are they going to have with you? What are you going to ask them?
So basically, I'm going to ask them what the reason is for their call, and I'm going to spend some time sort of listening to what they have to say and trying to, like Susan said, pick out the issues that are pertinent to the services that we provide, the issues that we can address. They'll need to know sort of basic demographic information, name, date of birth, their own phone number,
Sure.
but nothing more than that. If they do have documentation from the court or perhaps a legal form that they're looking for advice on, then it's helpful for me to be able to get copies of forms or letters that they may have received.
Absolutely. And then maybe if they have a deadline, something like that, that's looming.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. When we get back, I'd like to talk about something that I know that you both get questions on all the time, and that's estate planning, because I know that that's something you do a lot. So when we get back, we're going to talk a little bit about what estate planning means, where you can have access to those forms, and some of the information that you're going to need to know as you start to make those decisions about your own life and have those conversations with your family members. So make sure you stay tuned, because we're going to have all of that conversation next.
Hey, caregivers, did you know that respite time is your time? How will you spend it?
Respite is really perfect for things I like to do, but my son isn't interested in.
Vicki Henry, Manhattan.
Gardening isn't one of his favorite things, and he knows and likes his caregivers a lot, so it's a win-win. Or even something as simple as a bike ride becomes possible when I know that someone I trust is with him.
Montana Lifespan Respite. Respite for caregivers. It's okay to need it. It's okay to want it. It's okay to get it.
It's good for both of us.
I think the most pleasant surprise when we turned 65 and signed up for Medicare Part B was finding out about our Welcome to Medicare preventive visit.
It was free, and it gave us the opportunity to visit with our doctors and establish a plan for our health going forward.
They reviewed our medical history, measured our height, weight, blood pressure, and counseled us on other risk factors.
To learn more about Medicare's free or low-cost preventive and wellness benefits, call your local SHIP counselor at 800-551-3191. I mentioned it's free, right?
Twice.
I've been shooting since I was young. It's something I've always enjoyed. I wasn't feeling like myself, and my friend noticed. He asked if he could hold onto my guns temporarily. At first, I was a little shocked, but then I agreed. I think he saved my life that day.
Medicare loses $60 million in Montana each year, $60 billion nationally. Medicare processes 4.5 million claims a day. They don't know who your doctor is, but you do. Mistakes can happen. Read your Medicare statements and call Montana Senior Medicare Patrol if you see anything unexpected. 1-800-551-3191. This project is supported by a grant by the Administration for Community Living.
Welcome back to Aging Horizons. Today we're speaking with Gretchen Hall and Susan Gobbs from the Legal Service Developer Program at the state. And now we're going to talk a little bit about estate planning. So Susan, I know you and I have talked about estate planning many, many times, but what does that phrase even really mean?
Well, it can be overwhelming because it encompasses a lot of things. What we're talking about are things like powers of attorney, which are pre-death documents, and then we're talking about things like perhaps transfer on death deeds or wills that are post-death documents. Sure. So it's important to realize that when you talk about estate planning, you need to prepare for things like, oh, what happens if I am no longer able to make my own decisions about my health care or my finances? For example, if you don't have those documents in place and somebody gets to the point in their dementia journey that they cannot execute those documents, the next thing that has to happen is a guardianship. And that's the solution of last choice. It's not what we like to do because it turns somebody into a child in the eyes of the law. So in my experience with this program, and we do not deal with complex estates, we don't do trusts, we don't do a lot of sophisticated planning. But a lot of people in Montana don't really have a lot of assets. They might have a pension with their Social Security, or they might just have Social Security. They might own their own home, or they might not. So a lot of people need to concentrate on the pre-death documents, the powers of attorney, because those are more likely to come into use than some of the other documents. The other thing is people are terrified about probate.
Sure.
And that really is unfortunate because for a lot of people, probate's a pretty fast process, particularly if you have the family home and you want to sell it and distribute the proceeds to your children. And so it's important to realize that different documents are good for different people. Like we now have MV13, which is a transfer on death deed for a car.
Sure.
So you can let the Department of Motor Vehicles know that when you die, you want your car titled to this other person. Same thing with the transfer on death deed with the house. We always have to keep in mind the restrictions about that relate to Medicaid and the 5-year look-back period and what happens if somebody enters into a facility. So it's a global kind of concept, but you can break it down pretty easy into the various forms that people need. A lot of people will do wills that we write up that will never go to probate.
Sure.
They're just a guideline as to how they want their personal effects handled or their remains handled, and there's really nothing that would trigger a probate. So it is, while the concepts are complex, the forms are not.
Sure.
And so that's the glory of doing the clinics. And unfortunately, by the time this airs, we will have done our last clinic for 2025. We will do some more in 2026. But the idea behind those is you go in, you have an hour-and-a-half appointment, and when you walk out, you have the documents you need completed. Because we're not doing as many documents as we used to, and we've lost funding and lost staff, we have put a lot of our documents onto the DPHHS website. So if you go to DPHHS and you look for the Legal Services Developer Program, you will discover that most of the forms that we've talked about are on that website. People can pull them down. I still do not recommend doing that without some assistance from a legal professional, but you can at least look at the forms and see what the forms do and don't do. And the main thing I really want to talk about with estate planning is have conversations. Yeah. Conversations with your spouse, conversations with your children. If you don't have a spouse and children, to your friends who are going to act in some capacity with your either pre-death or post-death situation. It's so important that people understand what you want. And if you don't tell them, they won't know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When we're thinking about estate planning, is it something that you do once and then you're done? You get to check it off your list. You never have to have that conversation again?
Unfortunately, no. Some documents age very well. I've looked at wills that are 30 years old and they're fine. You don't have to rewrite them. But there are the 5 Ds, and I'm going to try to remember them all, but that could be really hard. We recommend that when somebody dies, you review your documents. When you have a divorce, you review your documents. If somebody develops dementia, you review your documents. You should review your documents every decade.
Yeah.
And I've forgotten the 5th one.
Death.
Death. Okay, see? I thought I said death first. Anyway, so you want to be aware. But, for example, if somebody moves, you don't need a new document. Somebody gets a new phone number, you don't need to do that. You can just jot that down, put it on a piece of paper with your will. So it's very important that you not think that these are documents you can write on and that you can change at will. Sometimes a codicil, which is an addition to a will, is necessary. But again, there are nuances to the language, and you can think you know what you're doing when you write this document up, but because you're not an expert in the law, it can mean something very different.
Absolutely.
And so it's important to review your documents occasionally.
Absolutely. Well, ladies, thank you both so much for being here. It was really wonderful to get to chat with you as always. And thank you for staying tuned to Aging Horizons. You can go to that website for the Legal Service Developer Program, find all those forms, and find some really great information. And you can always give Gretchen a call because she's pretty easy to talk to. So thank you for staying tuned to Aging Horizons.
Special thanks to the Department of Public Health and Human Services for their continued support. Hosts on Aging Horizons are program specialists at the Montana Office on Aging. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions. For more information about Aging Horizons, call the Department of Public Health and Human Services toll-free at 800-332-2272.